Billionaire sneaks ahead to test Maid's loyalty. What happens next haunts forever. The 1,000-square-foot mansion loomed like a dark sentinel beneath the night sky, its grand facade hiding secrets thicker than the shadows that crept through the gardens. This wasn't just another upscale estate. It was a fortress of wealth and deceit. Inside, a storm was brewing, swirling unchecked around the smooth marble floors, polished to an unsettling shine that reflected every flicker of light. No one in this world was safe, perhaps least of all the unsuspecting maid who had come to clean the opulent rooms and dust the bric-a-brac of a life that wasn't hers. As the clock struck midnight, chaos brewed in the mansion's heart, not from a party, but from the play of shadows over the walls. A figure, masked in darkness, slipped through the halls, his thoughts wild, adrenaline pumping like a dangerous drug. The billionaire was testing the limits, testing her loyalty, a game as old as time. The whispers of betrayal wafted through the air like an uninvited ghost, and the crackling tension hung over him, electric and thick. Her name was Clara. She had a smile that warmed the coldest hearts. Yet right now, she was oblivious to the storm brewing just outside her door. As she dusted the family portraits, her hands trembled slightly. Could it be that her employer was watching, measuring her worth? It felt wrong, the kind of wrong that sent a chill down her spine. The scent of jasmine wafted through the open window, mingling with a distant echo of laughter from a party that might as well have been on another planet. Suddenly, the darkness stirred. The billionaire, with eyes like deep pits of hunger, lurked just behind the door, his heart racing as he prepared to pounce. His motives were murky. Did he truly care about loyalty, or was this merely a horrific game of manipulation? The tension in his chest was palpable, each beat echoing his doubts. Hey, before we continue with this amazing story, I need to give you an important heads up. Many subscribers have reported that YouTube unsubscribed them without warning. Take a quick second to check the red button below to make sure you're still subscribed to the channel. I'd hate for you to miss any of the exclusive content coming soon. And while you're there, smash that like button. It really helps me out with the algorithm. Oh, and tell me in the comments, which city are you watching from? I love getting to know every amazing person who's part of this community. Your participation makes all the difference. Let's connect. Just then, a soft creak shattered the silence. Clara froze. She sensed a shadow behind her, darker than the rest. Was she being watched? As she turned slowly, her pulse quickened. The warmth of the room morphed into an icy grip around her. The billionaire stepped forward, his face a mask of predatory intrigue. You didn't think I'd let you slip away without knowing your true loyalty, did you? His voice was low, menacing, each word slicing through the air like a knife. In that moment, Clara's world tilted on its axis. Fear clawed at her throat. Would she stand, or should she run? Would she face this terrifying billionaire or cower against the wall, inviting the shadows to swallow her whole? The night air grew heavier, and her heart raced faster. A symphony of dread that demanded answers, but none would come. All she knew was that the choices she made now could haunt her forever. What would she do next? Clara's breath hitched in her throat, the weight of his presence suffocating. Stripped of her lively spirit, she faced the taut line between fear and defiance. Behind the billionaire's piercing gaze lay an abyss of uncertainty, a chilling dance of predator and prey. Please let me go. The words spilled out, shaky but unyielded. His laughter echoed ominously, sending ripples of dread through her. Go, but I'm just getting started. He stepped closer, the distance narrowing like a tightening noose. The gleam of a silk tie caught the dim light, elegant yet sinister. She could almost taste the tension, allured by danger, but terrified by the reality of it. Clara forced herself to stand tall, forcing a facade of bravery. Why are you doing this? There are games to be played, my dear. The slither of his words dripped with mockery. You see, I've heard how loyal you've been, how willing to serve. But loyalty isn't enough in this world. Not when there are sacrifices to be made. Her heart thundered. Sacrifices? What was he talking about? This wasn't just about loyalty. It felt twisted, like a piece of a dark puzzle she couldn't grasp. The house seemed to breathe around her, walls whispering her confusion back, amplifying it into a cacophony of fear. Do you know the worth of loyalty? He continued, pacing slowly, circling her like a hawk stalking a vulnerable rabbit. What if I told you that at dawn, someone is coming to take away the last piece of your life? And it's up to you whether that happens or not. A venomous chill crept along her spine. What are you saying? Your job, Clara. Your precious job. If you want to keep it, prove your worth. His voice grew hushed, yet colder than the most frigid winter night. You must be willing to do what it takes. What do you mean? But he was gone, fading into the shadows just as quickly as he had emerged. The silence wrapping around her felt leaden and oppressive. Clara felt anchored to the spot, rooted by confusion. Was he for real? Or was this some cruel game meant to toy with her mind? Her thoughts raced. She could not let fear grip her too tightly. Already she imagined herself fleeing this house, storming out into the night. But the weight of her circumstances pinned her down. What about her family? What about the bills that needed payment? The desperate moments of courage before had they prepared her for this? Suddenly, a clock chimed eerily, its long hands pointing toward a new hour. The sound reverberated like a death knell, sealing her fate. Clara realized she needed answers, but in this mansion of deceit, where could she possibly find them? With newfound resolve, she turned her gaze toward the looming staircase that spiraled upward, cloaked in shadow. What secrets lay beyond those stairs? What truths awaited her behind closed doors? Her choice clear, she began to ascend. Each step echoed through the cavernous halls, a blend of hope and terror guiding her movement. Was she about to unveil the heart of the billionaire's twisted game, or would she plunge deeper into the abyss? Finally, she reached the top, standing before a door that seemed to vibrate with danger. She placed her hand on the knob, every fiber of her being aflame with dread and determination. But just as she was about to turn it, an unexpected sound halted her. A soft, muffled cry echoed from within. Clara's heart pounded. Someone was in there. Could they be a victim of his machinations? She grasped the knob firmly. The moment had come. What lay beyond the door could change everything. Would she dare open it? Would it lead to salvation or her own destruction? Clara hesitated, her hand trembling against the cold metal of the doorknob. The muffled cries pierced through the heavy atmosphere, wrapping around her like chains, each sound a desperate plea that ignited her resolve. Did she dare to step into the unknown? With a firm twist, the door creaked open, revealing a dimly lit room. Shadows danced across the walls, morphing into sinister shapes that made her skin crawl. In the center lay a figure huddled on the floor, shoulders shaking in muted sobs. Clara immediately recognized the woman as Mariah, a colleague from the office, known for her zest for life and infectious laughter. Mariah. She rushed inside, her heart racing. What had he done? The sight of tears streaming down her friend's face clenched her gut tight. Clara knelt beside her, kneeling in the dust. What happened? Are you okay? Mariah's voice quaked, but she tightened her fists, forcing herself to meet Clara's gaze. He said I'd lose everything if I didn't cooperate. Cooperate? With what? The air thickened with dread. The games. Mariah's eyes darted around the room, filled with fear. He's testing us, Clara. Our loyalty. I tried to resist, but he said he'd take everything from me. My job, my family, my life. Clara's mind raced. She had feared this was more than a game. It was a dangerous strategy woven into the fabric of their lives. What's the price? She asked, voice steady despite her heart's chaos. Mariah swallowed hard, her breath hitching. He didn't say? But what I heard he's bringing someone here at dawn. If we don't prove ourselves, she trailed off, unable to finish the thought that a cold sweat broke across Clara's forehead. The stakes were far higher than she had anticipated. We have to find a way out. We can't let him win. Just as she spoke, a chilling laugh echoed through the hallway outside, drawing closer. The heavy thud of footsteps reverberated, a voice cutting through the tension. Ah, ladies, enjoying a little private chat? How precious. Clara's stomach dropped. She knew that voice too well. The billionaire was coming, and the very thought of facing him sent a wave of adrenaline rushing through her veins. They were caught, cornered like prey. Hide, she hissed, shoving Mariah toward the far wall, where the shadows clung tighter. They pressed against the cold surface, breathing softly, hearts pounding in fierce unison. The door swung open with an ominous creak, revealing him, clad in those tailored suits that wrapped around him like armor. He strode in with an air of power, his movements graceful yet predatory. I have a proposal for you both, he said, a sly smile curling his lips. A chance to redeem yourselves. But it will require trust, and perhaps even a betrayal. Chills ran down Clara's spine. What does he mean? She whispered to Mariah, panic blooming in her chest. Do you accept? He pressed, his deep voice echoing with dark temptation. Or will you both be banished from the luxury you've known, left to wither while the dawn brings your competitors to light? Mariah's breath quickened, and Clara's thoughts whirled. Betrayal? What would that cost them? The implications hung in the air like a guillotine on a thread. Choose, he said, his eyes gleaming with malicious intrigue. Your loyalty or your freedom? The clock was ticking. Could they risk it all to stand against him? Or would they succumb to his twisted whims? Clara held her breath, heart racing. With this moment stretching infinitely before her, she clenched her fists, knowing that whatever decision she made could bind them together or break them forever. What choice lay ahead? Would they dare to confront his darkness, or would surrender feel like the only way to survive? Clara's mind whirled as his gaze pierced through her, searching for a fracture in her composure. She could almost feel the weight of two damning choices pressing down on her shoulders. Could she trust Mariah, or would they both become victims of this twisted game? What will it be, ladies? He leaned closer, his breath hot against Clara's skin, the faint scent of his expensive cologne mixing with the musty air. Trust or betrayal? Your time is running thin. Mariah's eyes brimmed with fear as she whispered, Clara, we can't. But her words were lost in the thick tension that hung between them, suffocating and unyielding. Clara gulped, scanning the room for an escape. They were trapped in a sickening play, but the thought of losing everything terrified her more than the man in front of them. I need to think, she managed, but uncertainty gnawed at her. He chuckled softly, the sound low and predatory. Oh, sweet Clara, thinking is what got you in trouble in the first place. With that, he straightened and stepped back, a calculated distance that only intensified the claustrophobic dread. I'll give you until dawn. Decide carefully. The door creaked as he left, leaving darkness and despair in his wake. Shadows enveloped the room as if the very essence of fear clung to the walls. Clara and Mariah exchanged frantic glances, both trying to catch their breaths. What if we refuse? Mariah whispered, her voice trembling like a leaf in the wind. What if he really does take everything from us? Then we're already lost, Clara replied, her heart pounding like a war drum. There has to be a way we can turn the tables. Mariah nodded, steeling herself. But how? He holds all the power. A flicker of determination ignited in Clara's heart. What if we play his game, but we play smarter? Smarter how? Mariah urged, desperation edging her voice. By uncovering what he really wants. It has to be more than loyalty. If we can figure that out, maybe we can make our own escape, Clara said, urgency pouring from her every word. Do you really think we can? Mariah asked, her frown deepening, but hope sparkled in her eyes. We have to, Clara said, straightening her back as fire coursed through her very being. We can't let him think we're weak. We need to outsmart him while we still have a chance. The two women began plotting, whispering frantically about their lives, their joys, and their dreams, everything that had led them to this perilous moment. They shared their secrets, hoping to find a crack in the sheen of his perfect facade. But as the sun began to dip below the horizon, casting long shadows across the room, a cold dread settled in Clara's chest. With each passing moment, the billionaire's threat loomed larger. Soon, they would have to decide. Then, a sudden sound in the hallway shattered their focus, a heavy thud, followed by muted voices. Clara's heart leaped into her throat. What now? She whispered. Maybe it's part of the test, Mariah suggested, eyes wide. But Clara doubted it was just another game. There was urgency in those footsteps, a sense of foreboding that prickled her skin. Hide, Clara breathed, pushing Mariah behind the door just as it cracked open. The silhouette of a man stepped in, far too familiar. It was him, no suit tonight, just raw intimidation. Well, he said, glancing around, his malevolent grin slicing through the darkness. I hope you're both ready for what has to come. You won't have the luxury of waiting much longer. Clara's stomach churned. The nightmare was only just beginning. Could they handle what awaited them in the dawn, or had the wheel of fate already set in motion a course they could not escape? The door slammed shut, echoing ominously as they stood in the suffocating silence. hearts racing against the countdown to their bloody reckoning. Clara's breath hitched in her throat as silence engulfed them. The weight of the man's prediction loomed overhead like a storm cloud, electric and foreboding. "Clara, what do we do?" Mariah's voice was barely more than a whisper, urgency bleeding through her tone. Clara felt a deep knot form in her gut. They were cornered, not just by walls, but by their own desperation. "We have to find a way to turn this around," Clara insisted, shaking off the fear. "We can't let him control us like this." They crouched low behind the door, and Clara's mind raced. Memories of their lives played out like a montage, each one a reminder of what they stood to lose. Family, friends, their futures all at the mercy of his twisted whims. Mariah's hand trembled at her side, a mirror of Clara's own anxiety, but they needed trust now more than ever. Then the voices outside grew louder, shadows shifting on the other side of the door. Clara held her breath as one of the voices, a low, intimidating chortle, sent chills up her spine. "You'd better be ready, ladies. The game is about to change. I always win." Mariah gripped Clara's wrist, her nails digging into existing flesh. The pressure felt like a warning. "Maybe we need to distract him," Mariah suggested, her eyes darting to a window. "If we can create chaos, we might have a chance." "Chaos," Clara echoed, mentally weighing the risk. "What are you thinking? What if I draw him in while you look for anything that can help us?" "We need an edge," Mariah said, her voice steadying as she spoke. Clara hesitated, torn between protecting Mariah and seizing their slim opportunity. Finally, determination surged through her. "All right, we'll have to be quick and smart." As the footsteps faded, Clara took a deep breath, her heart pounding in sync with her burgeoning hope. "When I say go, you make some noise. I'll stay hidden, but I'll watch for the signal." "Got it." Clara pressed herself against the wall as Mariah slowly opened the door just wide enough to peek through. When she gave the signal, a wave of adrenaline coursed through them both. As Mariah stepped out, Clara's gaze locked on her friend. Time slowed as Mariah hesitated for a heartbeat in the doorway, then stepped fully into the dimly lit hallway. "Hey, you!" Mariah shouted, her voice echoing off the walls. "You think you can intimidate us?" "Mariah, no," Clara whisper shouted, panic surging as she saw a flicker of surprise in the man's expression. It was enough to shift the balance, if only for a moment. Suddenly, Clara's instincts kicked in. She darted towards the room's only window, praying it was their escape route. Just then, the man turned sharply, smirking at Mariah. "Oh, this is unexpected. Always appreciate a little spirit in my games." Clara's heart raced as she wrestled with the window, the old wood creaking ominously as she forced it open. Wind rushed in, swirling like a chaotic storm. "Now," Mariah cried out, drawing his attention fully to her. The man delivered a mocking laugh that echoed through the hall. "You really think your desperate little tricks will save you?" But the momentary distraction was all Clara needed. She climbed through the window, a surge of hope fueling her actions. Yet, as she scrambled through the opening, a strange noise caught her ear. A metallic click echoed across the floor, making her freeze. "Did you really think hiding from me would be so easy?" Clara's heart sank as she turned to see him striding closer, a glint of something sharp in his hands. The dreaded realization hit her like a physical blow. What had she stepped into? With a surge of instinct, she pulled back just in time to dodge, but his voice rang out with an unsettling calm. "You should be just chosen loyalty." Deep within, Clara braced for a confrontation more gruesome than any she had ever encountered. Would their gamble end in betrayal, or had fate woven something unforeseen in the chaotic web of their lives? As the dawn crept closer, so did their reckoning, and Clara understood one undeniable truth: this was not a game where only one of them could survive. What twist awaited them in the shattering light of day? Clara's heart thundered in her chest as the man advanced, the sharp glint of a knife reflecting the feeble light. Panic surged through her veins as survival instinct kicked in. She had to think fast. With no room for hesitation, Clara swung herself back through the window, barely catching the edge with her fingers. She kicked off the wall, propelling herself into a roll just as a cold gust of wind whipped past, sending chills down her spine. She landed awkwardly on the ground, scraping her palms against the rough earth. "Damn it," she muttered under her breath, shaking off the pain while her eyes darted back to the window. Clara, hurry. Mariah's urgent whisper sliced through the air. Clara could see her friend's figure tense as she braced for what was to come. The man's laughter echoed in the hallway, a sinister melody that rang in Clara's ears. I'll get him to chase me. Just find something. Mariah yelled, her voice resolute. Go. Clara's instinct was to run to Mariah, to protect her friend from the chaos that was about to explode. But she had a mission now. She needed a weapon or a tool, something to even the odds. The dim light of dawn spilled into the room she just escaped from, casting long shadows that danced in the corners. Clara edged through the window and back into the building, praying the man would be too focused on Mariah to turn around. She felt like a ghost, slipping through the shadows. She scanned the room as her mind raced. What could possibly help in this nightmare? The oppressive weight of fear settled over her, but she shook it off. She had to be brave. Her eyes landed on a metal pipe leaning against the wall. It was heavy, long, and, if used right, could pack a punch. Clara lunged for it, gripped it tightly, and quickly scanned the rest of the room. A rusty fire extinguisher? It could distract him long enough for her to escape. Clutching both the pipe and extinguisher, Clara heard Mariah's voice shred through the distance. Over here. Come get me. She felt the walls vibrating with the man's booming steps, and her heart dropped. She had to act fast. Clara slipped back to the window, her mind set on making a choice that could turn the tide. Clara, behind you. Mariah screamed, the terror blatant. Clara turned just in time to see the man charging toward her, the knife poised and menacing. Adrenaline surged as she unleashed a wild scream. Get away from her. Without thinking, she swung the metal pipe with all her might, just as Mariah dashed toward her. The pipe connected with the man's arm, the sound sickening, a thud of power meeting flesh. He staggered back, snarling, but it bought them precious seconds. Now, Mariah? Clara yelled, urgency breaking through the haze of fear. Mariah lunged forward, grabbing the fire extinguisher. Step aside, she shouted. Clara didn't need to be told twice. She ducked just as Mariah slammed the nozzle down. A cloud of foam erupted, filling the space around them and obscuring the man's view. Let us go, Clara shouted, adrenaline coiling within her. The two friends sprinted together, hearts racing, blurring past the chaotic foam filling the hallway. But just as they began to pick up speed, Clara caught a glimpse of the man, a shadow moving through the haze, his movements unnaturally calm. You can't escape me, he taunted, his voice slicing through the panic. Clara's breath caught. What do we do now? They were running toward an uncertain fate. As they pushed through the chaos, an unsettling thought pierced Clara's mind. This was only the beginning. What other horrors awaited them outside those walls? As they reached the end of the hallway, both girls could feel dread curling in their stomachs, anticipation tightening the air around them as they abruptly stopped in front of a door. Is it locked? Mariah whispered, her voice quivering. Clara reached for the handle, reality crashing like waves against their fragile hope. Let us find out, she breathed, and with one swift twist, she flung the door open, ready to plunge into the unknown. But what waited on the other side would challenge everything. They thought they knew. The door swung open, revealing a dimly lit room that felt like a forgotten tomb. Dust particles floated in the stale air, illuminated by a narrow beam of light cutting through the grime on a window. Clara and Mariah's shoes crunched on what felt like decades of debris, and their hearts thundered in unison as silence enveloped them. Is it safe? Mariah breathed, glancing back over her shoulder, her eyes wide with fear. I don't know, but we have to. Clara stopped short. They needed to regroup and breathe, but the urgency was suffocating. Shadows twisted across the walls, teasing them with glimpses of what might be lurking just out of sight. The sound of footsteps echoed down the hallway outside, jarring Clara from her thoughts. We can't stay here long, she urged. They had barely made it a few feet into the room when a door creaked nearby, and both girls froze. Did you hear that? Mariah whispered, her voice trembling. Yes, Clara's throat felt tight. The footsteps were getting louder. We need to find a way out. The panic that surged again felt different this time, mingling with an odd sense of determination. They couldn't just run. They had to think strategically. Clara scanned the room, taking in the remnants of old furniture and a heavy wooden table that sat in the center. Over there. She pointed to a door on the opposite wall. It felt like a lifeline, but another sound stopped them in their tracks, a low growl. They exchanged terrified glances. What was that? Mariah gasped. Let us just move, Clara urged, clutching the pipe tightly. As they crept forward, the air thickened with tension, each creak of the floorboards echoing like a thunderclap in the stillness. Suddenly, Clara spotted movement out of the corner of her eye. A shadow lurked just beyond the frame of a door on the left, a dark figure waiting in the gloom. Without thinking, her instincts kicked in, and she pushed Mariah behind her. Stay back, Clara shouted, brandishing the pipe like a lifeline. The figure stepped forward, revealing a face twisted in a mixture of anger and confusion. It wasn't he, the man from before, but someone equally menacing. His face was obscured by a hood, making him look like a phantom out of a nightmare. Look who's played the hero, he sneered, not losing the grin that painted his face like a mask. Clara felt Mariah's grip on her arm tighten. A sickening feeling settled in the pit of her stomach. How did you find us? Clara demanded, her voice barely holding steady. I know everything, he replied with chilling calm. But what is more exciting is how this story unfolds. Before she could process his words, a crash rang out from the back of the room. The door they had just entered burst open, and the previous man, knife glinting, stormed in, foam still clinging to his clothes like a demonic shroud. Stop them, he roared, plunging toward them, arm raised with the knife ready to strike. Run. Clara's instinct kicked in, and without a second thought, she turned toward the other door she had spotted earlier. Mariah was right behind her, desperation fueling their flight. They sprinted through the door and into a narrow corridor, not looking back as sounds of chaos erupted behind them. The growls and taunts echoing down the hall were practically palpable, wrapping around them like the fog they had just escaped. Heart pounding, Clara caught a glimpse of what lay ahead, another staircase. Where does this lead? Mariah yelled, almost drowned out by their pounding footsteps. I don't know. We have to take the chance. They rushed up the stairs, fear propelling them into the unknown, while uncertainty loomed larger with every step they took. As they reached the top, Clara's breath hitched at the sight before them, a door marked exit, but obscured by a heavy chain and padlock. Are we trapped? Mariah whimpered, her voice quaking. In that moment, dread gripped Clara. The more they ran, the closer the danger loomed. They had escaped one nightmare, only to stumble into another. And just when she thought things couldn't get worse, Clara heard a soft whisper in the shadows behind them. You're not alone. What did that mean? As chilling realization flooded in, Clara turned around, eyes wide, breathing uneven. Who was there, lurking in the shadows? The fight for survival was just beginning. Clara's heart raced as she swung around. The whisper echoed in her mind like a taunt, reverberating off the cold, damp walls. Shadows seemed to deepen, and for a moment, panic threatened to cloud her thoughts. Who is there? She shot back, her voice trembling despite her attempt to sound brave. Just a friend, or maybe a foe, the silky voice replied, dripping with an unsettling playfulness. A figure stepped from the shadows, their face half hidden by the darkness. Clara squinted, trying to make out any detail before deciding whether to trust this mysterious person. Quickly, this way, the figure beckoned, drawing a finger across their lips, urging silence. Marjorie squeezed Clara's arm, whispering, should we go with them? I don't know. Clara snapped back, but in her gut, it was clear they had little choice. The sound of heavy footsteps echoed behind them, growing closer, and the urgency outweighed any hesitation. They hurried toward the figure, who guided them around the corner and into a small alcove. Clara pressed against the damp wall, her heart pounding a deep rhythm of fear as she tried to gauge what this stranger had planned. Who are you? Clara demanded, trying to sound authoritative despite the quiver in her voice. The figure flicked their hood back just enough for Clara to glimpse a glinting eye and something shiny, a badge. I'm here to help you, they whispered, urgency etched on their face. But you have to trust me. They're coming for you. Who? The man with the knife? Mariah gasped, her breath shallow. Worse. The stranger glanced back down the corridor, a hint of fear crossing their features. You're not in control of this game. Suddenly, a loud crash reverberated through the building, shaking the very foundation beneath them. Clara hopped, adrenaline pumping, instinctively positioning herself in front of Mariah. The stranger's eyes widened. They turned hurriedly, grasping Clara by the arm. "We need to move now." Without thinking, Clara darted forward as the figure led the way. They ran through winding corridors that twisted and turned like a maze. Clara could feel the shadows closing in, the ghosts of the past whispering in her ears, reminding her of every misstep she had ever taken. The suffocating fear that had gripped her chest now threatened to crush her alongside the weight of the truth she was beginning to unravel. "Where are we going?" she called out, trying to keep pace with the fast-moving figure. "To a safe place," they insisted, barely glancing back. "But you have to stay quiet." They rounded a corner, and suddenly, Clara saw a flicker of light up ahead. It wasn't just any light. It shone like a beacon in the darkness, promising safety, but also hinting at more danger. "Are we close?" Mariah asked, her voice wavering. "Yes, just a little further." The stranger's urgency stung Clara's senses. As they rushed toward the light, the shadows behind them swelled, a rush of footsteps echoing perilously close. The heavy thuds felt like a countdown, an ominous drumbeat leading to their potential fate. Just as they reached the illuminated door, it swung open, revealing an expansive chamber bathed in eerie brilliance. The air crackled with electricity, and Clara felt a wave of confusion wash over her. This was not a typical escape route. In the center of the room stood an imposing figure, a shadow of the man with the knife, but with a much darker presence. "You thought you could escape?" he boomed, eyes glinting with malice. Clara's stomach churned. They were out of options, cornered in a web spun by forces beyond their understanding. Just when hope was slipping away, the stranger pushed Clara and Mariah forward. Now, they stumbled into the room as the door slammed shut behind them, sealing their fate. But just as a predatory smile spread across the man's face, Clara's eyes locked onto something glimmering on an ancient pedestal in the middle of the room. "Whatever that is, we need to get it," Clara shouted, a new fire igniting within her. As she made her choice, something shifted in the room. Something ancient and unforgiving stirred. Awake, and as the darkness encroached, waiting to pounce, the question echoed in her mind: what awaited them if they reached for it? The game was far from over. Clara's instinct propelled her forward, each step echoing with the certainty of a choice made. Mariah hesitated, her eyes darting between Clara and the figure now blocking their escape. "Stay back," the stranger barked, eyes narrowing. "Don't follow her." But Clara couldn't stop. It was magnetic. The shimmer on the pedestal called to her. The ancient artifact radiated a warmth that almost felt alive. Could this be the key to their salvation, or a trap waiting to close around them? "Clara!" Mariah cried, panic lacing her voice. "Wait!" The imposing figure shifted, body tense. Its eyes glowed with a darkness that seemed to suck the light from the room. "You're making a mistake," he warned, voice rough like gravel. "You have no idea what you're tampering with." Clara didn't care. She was already reaching out, fingertips brushing against the smooth surface. As she did, a jolt of energy surged through her body like electricity crackling in the air. The room spun, shadows writhing behind her, whispering horrors she couldn't begin to comprehend. Suddenly, the temperature plummeted. A chilling silence enveloped them, pressing down heavier than before. "It knows you," the stranger gasped, taking a step back, fear flooding their expression. "It recognizes blood." "Blood?" Mariah echoed, eyes wide. "What are you talking about?" But Clara was locked in a trance, a voice echoing in her head, urging her to take it. "Do it. Claim your power." The moment her palm made full contact with the artifact, a seismic shift lit up the chamber. Hollow whispers transformed into a chaotic cacophony, darting around them like fireflies. Clara's heart thundered, merging with the inexplicable pulse of the room. "Stop!" the figure yelled, scrambling to reach her. But it was too late. The words of the shadows grew louder, drowning out all rational thought. "They're here, you must embrace it." Clara felt a surge of knowledge flood her mind, revealing secrets hidden within time itself. What was this power? Dark and enticing, yet terrifying. The shadows glided closer, long fingers stretching toward Mariah and the stranger just out of reach. "Get away!" Clara shouted, drawing back, but still holding onto the artifact. Mariah whimpered, backing away against the wall. "You have to let go." The imposing figure straightened, a glimmer of recognition mixed with pure dread flashing across their features. You can't control it. They warned again, their voice strained. For a heartbeat, Clara felt invincible. She saw visions of lives lived, choices made, paths diverted, all swirling around her like an infinite loop. Yet just as quickly, fear gripped her, tightening like a noose. Would this power consume her, turning her into the very monster they were running from? Suddenly, the shadows lunged, a tidal wave of dark energy surging towards the pedestal. Clara felt her breath catch as an ethereal force pushed against her. She let out a desperate scream, wrestling with the artifact, torn between embracing the unthinkable and preserving what remained of her sanity. No, she cried, hands trembling against the artifact's surface. She could feel the creeping urge to yield to its power. But as the darkness enveloped her, something deep within Clara flared a flicker of understanding. If this force sought to control her, perhaps she could turn the tables. Summoning every ounce of willpower, she tightened her grip and roared, "You will not have me." In that moment, Clara realized the truth. Power was a game she needed to win, not just survive. With an unexpected rush, the gem pulsed in response. A violent wave exploded, sending both Clara and Mariah shredding through the shadows. The ancient artifact let out a blinding light that surged through the room, scattering darkness like leaves in a storm. But at that moment, the dark figure lunged towards them, betrayal and fury igniting in his gaze. "Foolish girl, you can't escape your fate." As the light enveloped them, confusion and fear melded into something darker. Clara felt herself being pulled, torn from reality, yet the shadow of the man loomed larger, a reminder of the choice that lay ahead. What awaited her on the other side of that blinding haze? And would the price of her newfound power be worth the darkness it promised? Everything hung in the balance, and the game twisted in ways she never imagined. The blinding light pulsed around Clara like a living thing, dizzying and overwhelming. She felt herself floating, lost in a void where voices of shadows mingled with the cries of the past. "You will pay, you can't escape," they taunted, their echoes scraping against her consciousness. Yet, within the chaos, she found a thread of clarity, a belief in her own agency. "Maybe I can't escape what I've done," she whispered to herself, trying to steady her tremors. "But I won't let it define me." With a surge of will, Clara pushed back against the wave of darkness attempting to draw her in. "I choose my fate," she cried out, her voice rising defiantly above the cacophony. The light flared brighter in response, awakening every dormant ounce of strength within her. It ignited a fierce determination, drawing Mariah close as they reached for one another, intertwining their fates in the whirlwind of energy. They weren't just escaping for the first time, they were fighting back. The shadows writhed, recoiling as if in pain. "No, stop!" The ominous voice thundered, growing fainter, retreating into the corners of their minds. Clara instinctively felt Mariah's trembling hands squeeze tighter around her own. Their bond was palpable, a reminder of love, friendship, and untamed spirit that had led them to this moment. As if guided by an unseen force, Clara focused on the artifact in her hand, channeling her intentions through it, a manifesto against tyranny, a prayer for freedom. She struck the pedestal with the force of her resolve, sending waves of energy cascading outward. The darkness erupted, imploding as Clara felt the surge of her power enveloping her. It was comfortable and terrifying all at once. She could feel her reality shifting, dimensions folding like paper, warping in response to her conviction. "Fight, Clara! Don't let go!" Mariah hollered over the storm, her voice grounding Clara. At that moment, Clara realized the truth. The power wasn't merely a tool, it was a choice. A choice to take control, to rewrite their story, and dare to believe in the light after all the shadows had threatened to snuff it out. As the chaos began to collapse, Clara thought of her family, the lives she fought for, and the future she envisioned for them all. Each thought invigorated her spirit, lending her strength. The darkness vibrated, screaming with anger and defeat, but Clara pressed on. With one final push, she released a wave of energy that illuminated everything: the room, the darkness, and all the choices intertwined within. Blinding brilliance flashed around her, and suddenly, as quickly as it began, they were back in the mansion, the early light of dawn pouring through the windows. Clara blinked, disoriented but feeling strangely whole. They were unharmed, standing in the very spot they had fought to escape. In awe, they looked around, uncertain of what had just concluded. But something felt different. Chains of fear had shattered, replaced by a semblance of peace. The shadows were gone. The atmosphere buzzed with freedom instead of dread. Did we do it? Mariah questioned, her voice tinged with disbelief. Clara nodded slowly, emotions churning within her. I think we did. We chose our path. As they stepped outside, the fresh morning air greeted them, a cleanse from the suffocating atmosphere of the mansion. But the sun felt harsher, brighter than anything they had known amidst the turmoil. Now what? Mariah asked, scanning the expansive gardens that had felt like a prison just hours before. Clara took a deep breath, letting the sweet scent of jasmine restore her spirit. We move forward. Together. We'll reclaim our lives, our choices, no more games. And though they weren't certain what lay ahead, Clara felt a spark of hope ignite within her. They had survived darkness and emerged in the light. Whatever the future held, they wouldn't face it alone. As they walked away from the mansion of lies, hand in hand, Clara understood something valuable. It wasn't just about who won or lost the game. It was about defining their own rules. We can start over, she whispered, a new chapter blooming before them, a choice reaffirmed. And so, they took their first steps toward a brighter tomorrow, knowing that true loyalty lies in lifting one another as partners, never pawns. The dawn promised more than just an end. It signaled a beginning, a chance to create a life founded on trust, strength, and the magic of choice. But this is only one part of the journey, and you don't want to miss what comes next. So make sure you subscribe immediately to the channel so you don't miss the next exclusive stories. And smash that like button now to feed the algorithm, help us grow, and keep the adventures coming. Please flood the comments section with your reactions and theories about the ending. What did you think of Clara's incredible journey? Finally, share this video instantly with at least 5 friends who need to see this conclusion. Your support is everything. This is the moment to show your love for the stories that captivate you. Don't wait even one more second.